Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club. And Larry has failed a late fitness test yet again. So George, our Supporters Club goalkeeper, has filled in as a reliable backup as always. And speaking of reliable backups, George, we'll fly straight into it because it's a Watford preview, and it's been a while since I've actually been able to preview a game of football because of the international break. But speaking of goalkeepers and backup goalkeepers, I'm not calling you our reserve keeper for the Supporters Club, but Dean Henderson is in the news before we get into sort of previewing Watford. This one's weird because as soon as that Newcastle takeover happened, everyone was talking Haaland and Mbappe or this manager, that manager. The first thing that came to my mind was Dean Henderson, January 1st. If both clubs are doing the right thing, if Man United are doing the right thing and Newcastle are doing the right thing, January 1st, Dean Henderson should be holding a Newcastle United shirt up. And I'm just thinking it just came out the last couple of days that he is looking to maybe leave because obviously De Gea has secured that number one shirt. I'm just thinking your latest on Dean Henderson and the situation surrounding him and potentially leaving the club.
I think it's a situation that works best for both parties. Now, before I go further with this, my take on let's call it the De Gea-Henderson debate, I've always had no doubt that De Gea has been the better keeper, or as a whole package as well. My stance on the debate, though, where I previously leaned towards Henderson, and to an extent still do, is that do we keep De Gea for another 3 to 5 years and take the risk of losing Henderson, who could turn out to be better than De Gea still, and should we keep him? Could he be our another keeper for the next 10 to 15 years? That, for me, is the dilemma that we're in at the moment. It seems like the club's made up their mind that they're going to take the De Gea option, and if that's the case, Dean Henderson, for the sake of his own career, needs to be looking for regular game time, especially with a World Cup coming up. He hasn't been included in the last 3 England squads since the Euros. And as for the calibre of players Newcastle are signing, I think that Dean Henderson level is the next step that they're going to be taking to get them up the table. They're going to be signing quality players who are just happening to be stuck in teams where they just can't seem to get game time. And for me, I think Donny van de Beek is another candidate to be signing for Newcastle, whether it be on loan or on a permanent basis in that winter window.
Well, you could make a case for half our team. I think Anthony Martial, now I don't see that happening, but everyone's throwing Jesse Lingard out there, Dean Henderson, Donny van de Beek, Anthony Martial. Pretty much half our team is linked to Newcastle. One, it's an easy story, but two, a lot of them do sort of make sense as well. But just a few guys in the comments, good evening or morning to Jamie, one of our listeners from Northern Ireland. Hope you're keeping well, mate. And Ian, good to see you, mate. Hope you're keeping well. And look, before we obviously sort of go a little bit more into the football and Watford preview, we're still technically in the international break, which does mean two things. It means Paul Pogba.
Just quickly, I want to bring up the comment from Ian. I actually think that's a great point. Henderson does have a lot of sale value.
You would say that,
he's a young English goalkeeper who is arguably, in terms of ability, in the top 3 goalkeepers in England. So that who could be a long-term option for whatever team he signs for.
You say that. See, I would agree in terms of business. If United are doing the right thing and Newcastle are doing the right thing, from United's aspect, it's going and getting good money for a young English player. However, when is the last time you've seen United sell a player for what they should be getting? Like, I remember that time was selling players like Nani, Raphael, and Robin van Persie. I think we got a combined $3 million for the 3 of them type thing. And I'm just thinking, yes, we should be selling him for about that, which is why, from Man United's point of view, it's good business. But yes, that's what he should go for. If United are to sell him in January, it might sound stupid. I'd be shocked if we get 10 million for him. Now, obviously, he's worth a lot more than 10 million. He is up around that 30, 40 million mark for me, given that he is English. But I just can't see United getting that money for him. I just can't see United doing that well of business. But just on that, before we move on, as I said, just short and sharp sort of preview of the Watford game. But before we get into there, international break still technically, George, which does mean two things. It means Mino Raiola and Paul Pogba. Mino Raiola has finally opened his mouth this break, and it's a weird one because he's come out and say, look, all these pundits have to keep talking about Paul Pogba to keep their job. Now, the way I look at it, I think this is a bit of a weird comment. Usually Raiola's sort of quite calculated and sort of, I don't agree with what he's saying, but always right. He's got an angle to it, and you can understand his angle. But this angle where he's saying all the pundits need to talk about Paul Pogba to keep their job, in my opinion, no one's talking about Paul Pogba. He's really not the headline news anymore. Henderson De Gea, I think, was taking up a little bit more headlines now in terms of Harry Maguire's copping a lot more flack. Solskjaer, obviously, the Donny van de Beek situation, the discussion around midfield and McFred type thing. Cristiano Ronaldo obviously takes up a lot of headlines. Paul Pogba, in terms of headlines at United, is probably 6th or 7th down the pecking order. So I'm just thinking, I understand Rayola's comments, but really at the moment, when you weigh everything up, they're not really that accurate. Paul Pogba is just what it is. It's the Paul Pogba situation. I think everyone's a little bit, I'd say, bored of it. Just your thoughts on the latest Pogba saga.
A lot of the debacle and fiasco around Pogba, I feel as though it was actually initiated by Raiola in the comments that are released during the international breaks over the past year or so, or 2 years actually, where he's been talking about a potential reunion with Juventus or or being on Madrid's doorstep should we not be able to prove that we can win a major trophy anytime soon. But as for pundits talking about Pogba, regardless of however many other players we still have that will dominate headlines rightly or wrongly, Pogba for me is still up there. All you need to do is just give Graham Souness 5 minutes of airtime and Pogba's going to be mentioned for 4.5 minutes of it. Rightly or wrongly.
Oh, no, yeah, no, completely agree. And look, he definitely is a big story, Pogba. I'm not taking anything away from that. I just think I've gotten to the stage, and I know Larry's the same, we're just bored of it. If he stays, that's great. Hopefully we'll get the best out of him. If he moves on, well, we can look to a brighter future and hopefully something new, because it is the same old with Paul Pogba always. But you just mentioned
I think Roy Keane summed it up perfectly. Like when he said United have lost players like Paul Pogba before and United have survived. So if Pogba does leave, then ultimately we will survive.
Yeah, I think in cases, whether it be a player leaving or a player signing or results being bad or results being good, it's never as good as you think it is and it's never as bad as you think it is. And it does feel bad at the moment regarding our results. But yeah, look, we're not in a relegation battle. And of course, that's not our standard, but it's always a little bit of a grey area. I think we overreact in regards to the sort of the future of Manchester United, whether it be with Pogba or without Pogba. He's a footballer. We'll be good without him or good with him, etc. There's no real skin off my back. But just on that, you talk about pundits, and the last bit before we get into the Watford preview, I got a lot of stick on Twitter during the week. Shock. I've sort of backed up for one or two people, and you can't do that on Man United Twitter. You get abused for it. And the person that's currently getting abused is Andy Cole. Andy Cole came out and just pretty much simply, he did talk about criticism, but also sort of alluded to the abuse that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is getting and the over-the-top criticism. He agreed that, yes, Solskjaer deserves criticism. He's the Manchester United manager, but it's the over-the-top criticism. Like I saw Solskjaer during the week getting criticism for Harry Maguire's sister tweeting out or liking tweets backing Harry Maguire, and Solskjaer was getting the blame for Daisy Maguire liking tweets. And I just think that over-the-top criticism and piling on Solskjaer at the moment is just stupid. And Andy Cole came out and said, look, he needs a lot more respect. Yes, criticise him, but the over-the-top stuff is just way too much. And he doesn't like to see that happen to Solskjaer because obviously he's a good friend of his and they're close mates. So I'm just thinking, in terms of United's aspect, a lot of people are very cynical and sort of call it conspiracy with Andy Cole coming out. And a lot of United fans are saying, well, it's just Man United, put an ambassador out in front of Sky Sports News and say, please defend my friend Ollie, and sort of put a positive spin on things. In my opinion, and look, there could be an element to that, but in my opinion, there's just a friend, a mate, calling out the media and say, hey, back off my mate, he's doing an okay job, just stop abusing him. Have an opinion, but stop abusing him. But unfortunately, Andy Cole now is starting to become public enemy number one on Twitter. Like, so many Reds are turning against him, which I find... I can't believe that people are turning on Andy Cole. I'm baffled.
Personally, I feel like the same thing is happening with Gary Neville as well. Like, I personally think that both of them, they know that Solskjaer is in a rough patch of form. If you look at the United fan base, whether they're the respectful or the disrespectful type, 99% of us know that Ole's not the right man for the job. But if you don't think that if you're trying to say, well, oh, his mates are just backing up for him, he's looking for sympathy, or we're just trying to defect from the actual problem, which is the people above Ole. Well, that Neville and Cole aren't. While they're just defending the disrespectful abuse of Solskjaer, they're not defending his performances, because they've both pointed out that our performances have been subpar, lacked purpose and intention and direction on and off the field. But what they're calling out is the abuse from fans, quote unquote, to the manager. And for me, have your opinion on the manager. I probably agree with you. Not in a disrespectful manner, but I agree that we need better, and Ole probably isn't the right man for the job. But that doesn't mean you disrespect and disregard the good work that's been done by him as a player and even as a coach. When Ole does inevitably leave, he's leaving a team in a better state than what he inherited it in.
Yeah, well, definitely. My mum's just commented there in regards to the disrespect towards Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But Ian here saying in the club's pocket, Cole is, and that's the element where I say, okay, you can have that stance, but at the end of the day, he's just saying, please respect Solskjaer. He's saying, yes, criticise him, but stop abusing him. So I understand that there could be an element from the club saying, hey, go out and do this interview for us. But Andy Cole, at the end of the day, is speaking the truth and 100% honest, and I can only agree with it. And Andy Cole, in terms of legendary status, for me, he's probably scored the most underrated goal in Manchester United history. That goal against Tottenham in the final day of the Premier League season, if that doesn't happen, the treble doesn't happen and Solskjaer's goal doesn't happen. But we'll get into this comment here in a sec. Ian saying, how many points in the next 4 games do you think they fall? Well, I don't want to look at the fixtures. At the moment, I'm just thinking about Watford. But Tom Coburn here has just got a comment for you, George. I haven't read it yet. But sorry, but the likes of Gary and even Roy defended Ollie with his performances as a manager. If you listen to what they say, they focus on the player's responsibility rather than a manager. Well, I think that's the thing where they're footballers. They know the players have to take responsibility. They know the players are the ones not at fault. Solskjaer obviously takes a lot of criticism, but they've been in dressing rooms who they know it's up to the players to perform. The players are sort of deflecting the blame onto Solskjaer.
I take Tom's point. The play, I do believe Ole does deserve. I wouldn't say, let's say I put 70% of the blame of what's happening right now onto Solskjaer. 30% is still up to the players. So while players are being called out for it, they are rightfully so being called out for it. We have been called Moments FC for the good things, such as Ronaldo's, let's call it his volley against Atalanta, or his match winners in the Champions League in general, for Bruno's passes. But Moments FC works both ways. Ole doesn't tell Harry Maguire can be responsible for 3 of the 4 goals we cop against Leicester. He doesn't tell him get pinched on the ball.
I think that's it comes down. The big criticism there with Solskjaer is in regards to, well, Harry Maguire's making these mistakes. Harry Maguire shouldn't be playing anymore. That should be Solskjaer's responsibility.
I do believe that's where Ole does need to take a lot of blame. Maguire should never have been playing when he was not fit. McTominay and Fred, you definitely can't be playing them time and time after they've constantly failed you. And you've got players like Matic and Van der Beek waiting in the wings. And on Matic, Ole's 3 best purple patches as a United manager have been with Matic in the team. At the start, Matic and Fred worked for a bit. Then it was Matic, Pogba, Bruno. And then Matic and Van der Beek in pre-season. All of the common factor in all of those was Matic, but still, he can't seem to get in the team in the start and big games.
Well, that's the thing. We'll get into Watford, and in terms of now the preview. Now, in terms of something has to change. Now, not the title of the podcast is Solskjaer must change. It's not the managerial position must change, even though we're all on board that maybe it should. But in regards to something has to change, whether that be team selection or a formation thing, something will have to change, and Solskjaer will have to do something different. But I find myself almost in regards to that Andy Cole sort of element and sort of back in Solskjaer. Yes, I'm sitting here and saying, yes, we need a change of manager if the right person is out there, which ultimately means sacking Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I hate to use those words, but ultimately that's what I think the right decision is. However, I can still have that opinion, but have my full support of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I'm almost bunkering down with my support of Solskjaer at the moment because of the abuse that he's getting and the disrespect and the over-the-top criticism. I'm almost going out of my way to defend him more because I think players and managers in a situation like that where their own are turning against them, they do need support. So while my opinion stays that, yes, we do need a change of manager, he has my full support and I would love nothing more than him to turn it around. And you talk about that midfield, George, and we'll go into Watford now. In terms of turning things around, it's kind of a boring discussion. We always sit here and say, okay, Donny van der Beek should play, Matic should play, Harry Maguire should be dropped, etc. And we always say, well, it's not going to happen. It's going to be same old, same old. Now, I've used this term before in terms of United and Solskjaer being at absolute rock bottom in recent weeks. Surely this is the time where Solskjaer changes it and goes to something out of the blue. I'm not saying he's going to start Donny van der Beek, but is it starting Jadon Sancho on the right, Marcus Rashford on the left, Ronaldo up front, or is it dropping a Harry Maguire, which I don't think will happen, but is it dropping Luke Shaw? Like, do you think something will happen where you go, geez, he's done something differently here, or will it be same old, and a piece of McFred on the side?
As much as we like to think Ole may change, rightly or wrongly, and to his detriment and to his credit, he's been stubborn. When it's worked, great. When it hasn't, in situations like this where we've continuously hit a shit run of form, it's going to work against him, and ultimately it'll cost him his job. And personally, I expect to see McTominay and Fred starting in midfield, especially now that we know that Pogba won't be there.
Well, yeah, the Pogba situation's interesting, but I just saw Fred. He's obviously now it wasn't like the last international break where he was stuck in Brazil or playing on the same day type thing. He will be back in Manchester, well, actually London at the time, so I'm sure he'll be in the squad. Whether that impacts the team selection, I have a feeling that, yes, there is a almost thing where Solskjaer will rush Fred back. He's so important to them, but I do have a feeling Fred might start this game on the bench and maybe sort of, I don't want to say saved or held back for Villarreal, but I don't think Fred will play this game just for the fact off the back of the international break. I think it will be, maybe a Matic and McTominay type thing. Mad, good to see you, mate. Hope you're keeping well. And Larry has lost weight. He sure has. Larry's obviously preparing for the charity match in a couple of weeks. So if you aren't aware of that, in the description below is the link to the charity match in regards to the fundraiser we're playing for and the ACT Food Bank. So if you are in Sydney but can't make the game, or wherever you are in the world, you can donate to that. It's a very good cause. And Larry is currently in the gym getting ready for that match. What was I going to talk about next, George? We'll talk about that in regards to Solskjaer, in regards to what's he going to do. Does it matter what he does in regards to, well, if he wasn't sacked in the international break, from his point of view, how does he view his job security now? Because there is a case now where he almost can't be sacked. What situation do you think he actually could be sacked before the next international break? Does it come down to getting knocked out of the Champions League group? Because I just feel if he wasn't sacked during the international break, they're not going to sack him for a loss against Watford after we've just lost to Manchester City and Liverpool in the fashion that we did. So is it almost, does Solskjaer have almost, sound stupid, but does he have less pressure on him now?
I agree with you. Personally, I think the only scenario that he gets sacked before the next international break is, as you said, if we don't get out of the Champions League group, which is, in my opinion, quite unlikely. I do think we will get out of it, whether we play well to get out of it and go scrappy or go through in a scrappy manner. I still see us getting out, whether it's whether it's in first or second spot, I still do see us going through. As for his job security, as you said, as you've alluded to, probably, I wouldn't say he's safe as ever, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And how does that affect what he does on the pitch? Personally, I don't think he changes anything.
Well, what should be changed, though? What should be changed? Because, okay, if you're the manager and you're coming in and you're seeing our current squad and the form they're in, okay, Harry Maguire's in great goal-scoring form. You could maybe pair him up front with Ronaldo, an old-fashioned 4-4-2. But what would you change if you're the manager? Forget Solskjaer. If you're the manager, what needs to be done now?
Personally, I'd give Matic and Van der Beek a run instead of McTominay and Fred. I think I'm speaking for 99% of the fan base when I say that. I think Maguire, I'd give him another chance, but should he put in another horrible performance, I do think he needs to be taken out of the team, as does any player when they perform poorly. For me, that's one of my issues with Solskjaer. It's just he hasn't been punishing players for bad performances and hasn't been rewarding players when they've come in and done a good job. Like for me, Eric, if we look at the League Cup game, yes, we did lose against West Ham, but Bailly was fantastic, Van der Beek was fantastic, as was Matic. None of them were in the starting lineup the next game against Villa.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Which comes down to, as much as I've defended Solskjaer, is which you alluded to earlier in terms of my main criticism, is that lack of the squad, which actually Ian points out here in regards to he needs to start using all his team. He has so many good players. And yeah, you look at the training photos and you see some of the players that you forget about, and whether it be
Juan Mata, your man, Juan Mata, where is he?
Saving him back for the Champions. If he doesn't play against young boys, I'm done.
Personally, I don't think he will. I'll tell you that now.
Look, it might be a must-win game. If we don't beat Villarreal, it might be a must-win game. But I do think players like that. People say, no, Juan Mata shouldn't be at the club. Well, given the use of him at the moment, yes, so maybe he shouldn't have stayed. But when you do have him to be able to, at your disposal, you do need to use him because we defend so much. And I put this out on Twitter. And again, not many people sort of agreed with me. However, so much of our defending is off the back of turning the ball over in cheap areas and turning the ball over and then under the back foot. And I just think you can prevent that by having players in your team who keep the ball. Now, I'm not saying play Juan Mata over Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes is brilliant. He impacts games. He's a winner. He's exactly what we need. But it's almost that case with Ronaldo and, okay, let's say Cavani. There's a case where we'll play better football if Cavani was up front instead of Ronaldo. Now, you've obviously got to play Ronaldo, but I almost bring that back to Juan Mata and Bruno Fernandes. Okay, you've got to play Bruno Fernandes, but you might actually play better football with Juan Mata in number 10 in terms of keeping the ball.
I might sound crazy by saying this, but I'd actually rather play Juan Mata over Fred or McTominay. And the reason being, before you jump to calling me an idiot, is the reason McTominay and Fred, yes, they're in there for their work rate, but the reason why we need so much defensive work rate in there is because they continuously give the ball away. Juan Mata, as you've said on the podcast before, every option he makes is the right option, and he'll execute it 9 times out of 10, even if it's just a simple 10-meter pass, which a lot of the time Fred can't play.
Well, it was always a comparison, and very lazy comparison in terms of Spanish sort of diminutive left footers type thing. But I always thought he'd almost take the same sort of career trajectory as David Silva and almost move back into that sort of midfield role. But obviously Manchester United didn't never really played with those sort of 2-8s type thing. But I really think Juan Mata could do that in a sort of successful sort of front foot team. I think going in there into a team where you're going to have to do a lot of defending. You don't want Juan Mata in there, but you could definitely just drop him in Manchester City's team where Jack Grealish or Kevin De Bruyne play, where Phil Foden / David Silva play. You just let him play there. I'd love it, but yeah, it's not going to happen. I'll say that for the young boys game if we beat Villarreal. But Ahmad here also, just going back to the charity match we're talking about, cracking match sponsor too, I hear. Yeah, Ahmad, his company, himself and his business have proudly sponsored the match as well, which is huge for the supporters club because the biggest expense we have when we run these charity matches is the pitch hire. You do have to pay for the pitch hire type thing, and that's quite an expensive sort of ordeal. When you first started organising these games, you'd think it would be $20 to hire a pitch. It is far from that. So, Ahmad, feel free to leave your Instagram or any business details in the comments, and we'll put them up. Please go follow him on Instagram for all those things, especially if you are in Sydney. But just on that, George, in regards to, do you want to put a prediction on Watford? Because you could. When's the last time we won a match? Tottenham actually wasn't too long ago. Tottenham, we won a match, but Watford is almost. I remember last time we played there, we lost. So I wouldn't say it's a bogey ground.
Last time we played at Vicarage Road, we lost 2-0.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a bogey ground or a bogey team, but they're one of those teams where you think, you wouldn't be shocked if you drop points there, even if we're flying. You think, wait, Watford, tricky one, especially after the international break. So I'm just thinking, I don't think Manchester United fans can ever go into a match confident, unfortunately, at the moment. But off the back of the international break, the players going away, is there a touch of optimism? Manchester United against Watford, you're kind of confident?
I don't know if you'll call it optimism. I do think we'll win the game 1-0 or 2-1. Most likely 2-1 because I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. But I do think it'll be a very scrappy win. It's not going to be convincing at all. Let's say a Ronaldo brace to make everyone happy.
Well, yeah, I think we often forget about Ronaldo, and you made that point on the last podcast in regards to a top 4 race and saying going forward, okay, are we good enough to make the top 4? Are the other teams not good enough to make it? Who's going to win out? And just think maybe in games like this, it comes down to, yes, having Ronaldo. Now, I've said this point before, Ronaldo's going to score and he doesn't score, but 9 times out of 10, he will. And the last thing a Watford defender, I couldn't tell you their team, but the last player who wants to see Ronaldo on the team sheet is a Watford defender. I'm sure they'd never come up against someone of his ability type thing. So you see Ronaldo on the team sheet, because I don't know the Cavani situation. We've discussed it off air just before we went live. I don't think he's in the Pogba category of serious injury, but I think Cavani might be out for a little bit. You said he missed the international break?
Yeah, he wasn't playing for Uruguay. And just on Watford, I do think Emmanuel Dennison's will give Varane and Maguire, assuming that Varane won't be playing, so Maguire and Lindelof, a tough challenge. He's a quick physical striker, something that previously, as we saw with Jordan Ayew the first game last year, that Maguire and Lindelof have struggled to deal with. And also Ismail Assar, that he will trouble Luke Shaw and test out how, I wouldn't be calling Luke Shaw lazy just yet, but whether he's going to be 100% putting in the effort that he needs to be able to deal with him. We will be tested by them as well.
Don't worry, I'll call Luke Shaw lazy. I think he has been lazy this season. However, he's not the laziest left back. The one player I do know who plays for Watford, I thought, for some reason, I thought Troy Deeney still played there. Apparently he plays for Birmingham and he left Watford. But I think Watford and Troy Deeney, but the worst player I have seen in the Premier League this season, and I'll take this to the grave, Danny Rose. Oh my God. If I've watched him play
100%. 100%.
Oh my God, he's been bad. So that's where I think put an intelligent player like a Juan Mata on the right-hand side around him, or even Jadon Sancho is a very clever player and quick player. So Jadon Sancho, whoever is on the right, should be having a field day if Danny Rose is on the left-hand side. He has been absolutely woeful.
A bit off topic, but my favourite part of that Tottenham All or Nothing documentary is when Danny Rose is in the room with Jose Mourinho arguing about why he's not playing, and his reasoning for moving to Newcastle was to be included in the squad for the Euros. And thinking, who do you think you are? Seriously.
He's a weird one, Danny Rose. Had an unbelievable, an interesting career in regards to how it's played out and his ability / his motivation. And I'd love to read his book. I'm sure he'll do a book at the end of his career, and I'm definitely buying that one in, saying Donny and Matic would keep the ball a lot better, and Wes completely agreeing with him. And I think that's the one where, I do think, yes, we do think it'll sort of revert to McFred. And what's the more important game for Solskjaer? I think Villarreal is probably a little bit more important, where you could see a McFred. in terms of, especially away in Spain. I could understand the reasoning for that. I think away at Watford, I'd love to see Donny and Matic. And while we say that every week and that doesn't eventuate, I do have a feeling, George, we might actually see it, or see a combination of that, whether that be a Matic and McTominay. I don't think it'll be McFred. Whether that's purely, as I said, off the back of the international break and just it's a little bit tricky to play a player from South America, etc. But I do think with the upcoming fixtures, I think Ian made a point earlier here saying we play every 3 days now. Our big criticism of Solskjaer has been his squad rotation. He does play sort of run plays into the ground, unfortunately. If he is going to change and he's going to turn this around, it's a big thing to turn around, but if he is going to have to start rotating the squad, and especially in that midfield position. McTominay and Fred aren't the best players. They're definitely not going to be the best players if they're running to the ground. But he is confident in regards to we'll beat Watford 3-0. And Wes, in terms of Donny and Matic, same plus I'd pass ball forward and find fit. And they are players who are very progressive with the ball. Sam, good to see you, mate. Keen to have club football back, even though the form of, which is what I made the point in regards to, as bad as things feel and as bad as depressing as it feels, especially in United's form, you can't help but just get excited that football's back. I know, George, you follow a little bit of the international football, but I just can't get my head around. I just can't do it. I don't care if we were lost 10 on the bounce in the midst of a relegation battle. If United are back in action, I'm giggling like a little school kid.
Well, as am I. And that's why I don't like when, I don't know if you call them fake fans or disrespectful fans, when they say, well, I hope we lose this game just to force Solskjaer out the door. I just think that is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. And they're saying that fans shouldn't be singing his name in the ground. But I mean, I know we talked about this at the start of the podcast, but it should never be the responsibility of the fans to get rid of a manager. When we say we support the manager, that's fine. It's fine if we don't think he's the right man. I've said here many times that I don't think Solskjaer is the right man to take us forward. But while he's the manager, I'll support him and hope he does the best for the club.
No, completely agree. And I'm sure 99% of the people, everyone in the comments is obviously 99% of the time very respectful and completely agree. Yes, you can have opinion that he needs to go. I'm sure, I know people who go to Old Trafford week in, week out who sing their hearts out for Solskjaer, who do want him sacked. They know he needs to go and they want him out, but they show him his full support. And Man United fans in the ground, especially the away support, which will be down in London against Watford, that they'll be 100% behind Solskjaer, and rightly so. Yeah, Sam, completely agreeing with you here, George. And we'll try and wrap up on that bit of positivity, George. I think Ian put a comment in saying 3-0. Are you that brave in terms of predicting not only just 3 points? I think the biggest comment there from Ian is in regards to a clean sheet. Can you see us keeping a clean sheet?
Not at all. I think Ismaila Shah or Emmanuel Dennis will grab on, and that will help out my fantasy team as well. But
Be confident of a win, though?
I am going to say a 2-1 win, but it's going to be scrappy. But just on ex-United players, what are the chances that Ben Foster and Joshua King have a worldie against us again?
Yeah, well, Josh King is definitely lined up. I think he used to play for Bournemouth. Did he used to pop up occasionally for Bournemouth?
Against us as well.
And
he
Ben
scored.
Foster...
Josh King scored an equaliser and a winner against us when he was playing for Bournemouth. So who knows?
Yeah, no, that definitely wouldn't shock you. I've seen Ben Foster has been playing a little bit regularly now as well, and doing well. I think Ben Foster's one who does have a good relationship with United fans. I'm sure a lot of people, if you aren't subscribed, go look at Ben Foster's YouTube channel. It's actually
the
very
cycling
good.
Goalkeeper, very good channel.
It's very good. Not often promoting stuff against Watford, but Ben Foster is very good, and I think sort of has a little bit of part in Manchester United history. So they had that League Cup final against Tottenham where he saved a few penalties type things. So always held in high regard at Manchester United. Ben Foster, hope he does well. We'll wrap up now. Yeah, I'm confident. I'd say a 2-0 win. I'll go clean sheet. I'll say Harry Maguire, man of the match, 1-0, 2-0, Maguire and Ronaldo. Why not?
On that point, when was the last time we ever scored off a corner?
I've had this debate every week. We never do it. It was probably Maguire. It was probably ruled offside or pushing the back or something got disallowed. But I'd say Ahmad said I'll go 4-4-2, drop Bruno, play Cavani, Ronaldo up front, Rashford, Donny, McTominay, Sancho, drop in Luke Shaw as well, Tellez, Lindelof, Varane, and Wan-Bissaka, which the Cavani one is interesting. I'd love to see Cavani play, but as we were saying, it looks like he might be out through injury, but hopefully not. Hopefully he's back quite soon. We'll just wrap it up now and say Ollie doesn't get sacked until the season's end, which what both George and I completely, unless maybe we go to the Champions League group, which will definitely change that. Ian echoing our thoughts as well, United till we die, and Sam saying Foster probably had Ronaldo captained. I think,
he does that. He always has that.
Yeah. Ronnie hat-trick for Ian. Maguire against Chelsea, I think. Yeah, that was a while ago. I think that was Maguire and Bruno's first season type thing. And Wes, really appreciate the support, mate. Really appreciate that. And George, appreciate you as well for the late replacement for Larry after he failed a late fitness test. Always good to get you back on and chat a little bit of football.
Thanks for having me back, and hopefully Larry passes his fitness test before our match against Watford in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, this isn't the big game against Watford. It's not this must-win. It's obviously our game on the 5th of December in Sydney against the Watford Supporters Club. So if you are in Sydney, click on in the description below. There is a link to all the details about that match, where you can also donate as well for the food banks in New South Wales and Canberra. That would be truly appreciated. And obviously a lot of people in the chat. George is our goalkeeper. Midfield as well. We are playing. So if you are in Sydney, come down, have a beer. I'm sure someone will throw something on the barbecue, etc. And you can give us our own 3-2-1s post-match, win, lose or draw. And Larry will be making an appearance at left or right back, he tells me. So until then, hopefully everyone enjoys their weekend. Hopefully it involves United in 3 points, and we'll be back on Sunday, hopefully reviewing the 3 points. But if you did enjoy that, please leave a like on the video. It'd be truly appreciated. And we'll chat to you on Sunday. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.